I left for a quiet trip to visit my daughter. Just 2 weeks. When I returned, there was a fully built public restroom on my landpipes, plumbing, lights, and a banner thanking me by name. They thought I'd stay quiet, but what they didn't know was I used to be the man who shut places like this down. For a living, my name is Franklin Reed. I'm a 58-year-old retired health inspector. And when I moved to Clearwater Pines, Colorado, I didn't come for HOA meetings or neighbor drama. I came for silence, for mountain air, for the simple joy of sipping hot coffee on my porch as the sun rose behind Eagle Crest Trail. I had spent my career in public health, crawling through commercial kitchens and hospital basements. I'd earned peace, so I bought a corner lot with the perfect view and spent 3 years shaping that land into something meaningful. Stone walkways, a Japanese maple garden, a koi pond so clear you could see the sky in it. It was my sanctuary. I was visiting my daughter in Arizona when it happened. 2 weeks. That's all it took. When I got back, my peace was gone. There, sitting where my koi pond used to be, was a fully functional public restroom facility. Plumbed, wired, painted. A banner across the front read, "Clearwater Trail, Comfort Station, a community partnership." The landscaping around it looked professionally done. People were walking in and out, like it had always been there. I stood in the driveway, staring at it for a full 5 minutes, before I realized it was real. I walked around the side, heart pounding, hoping it was some kind of temporary structure or mistake. Instead, I saw a utility box, newly wired, a water spigot labeled "Public Use Only." My name was on the electric meter. A maintenance sticker was already slapped onto the door with the HOA's logo printed beside it. That was when I realized someone had made a decision. Not just a bad one, but a calculated one. And they thought I wouldn't do anything about it. The new HOA president was a woman named Margaret Bell. She had only been in power 6 months and had already tried to rename the community garden after her dog. She ran the HOA like a personal brand. And now, apparently, she thought she could develop private property without even asking. I marched down to the HOA office. Margaret met me with that politician's smile. She told me it was all a misunderstanding, that I had signed the paperwork. She pulled out a document with my name and signature. I had never seen that paper in my life. I told her that forgery is still a crime in this state. She said I was being combative. That was the wrong thing to say to me. I went home, sat at my desk, opened my old inspection bag, and pulled out my tools. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a job to do. I spent the next 72 hours inspecting the structure, taking samples, documenting everything. I found 37 violations, from improper sewage drainage to ventilation systems rerouted through flammable insulation. There were water lines crossing into my personal supply, no backflow prevention, and mold already forming behind the drywall. Worst of all, the methane ventilation was faulty. One spark and the whole place could blow. I called in favors. Friends from the health department arrived in unmarked trucks. We inspected every inch, quietly and thoroughly. 3 days later, the state condemned the facility. News crews showed up as they posted the red warning on the restroom door. Margaret tried to spin it as a community misstep. She blamed a junior board member, claimed there was confusion over who owned the land. But I had found more than health violations. While pulling records, I discovered a fund labeled Community Green Fund. $25,000 had been routed through it, donated, supposedly, by local businesses. But one of those businesses was owned by Margaret's husband, a failing cafe just a mile from the trailhead, and the restroom positioned perfectly to redirect foot traffic past his front door. It wasn't just negligence, it was corruption. I filed a civil suit. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Rachel Nguyen, presented everything: the fake signature, the violations, the financial trail, the environmental damage. The judge ruled in my favor, $185,000 in damages. The HOA was ordered to reimburse me for utilities, landscaping destruction, and trespass. But the biggest blow came when the judge referred Margaret and her husband for criminal investigation, fraud, forgery, Abuse of public trust. She resigned the following week. The restroom was torn down in silence. I rebuilt the koi pond myself, replanted the maples. I installed a motion-triggered sprinkler system and set a stone marker where the facility once stood. It read, "Private property, under surveillance." At the next HOA meeting, people looked at me differently. No longer the grumpy man on the corner. I stood up and spoke for the first time. This was never about a bathroom. I said, it was about who gets to decide what happens on our land, about how quickly power corrupts when no one pushes back. They elected me to the Compliance Review Board. I drafted new rules. Every HOA project now requires written consent from adjacent property owners. Quarterly reports are public, and no president can sign off on construction without oversight. I didn't come here to fight, but when they took something I built with my own hands, when they walked into my yard and left a facility leaking sewage into my soil, I had no choice. They thought I was just another retiree with a koi pond and time to spare. They forgot I spent my career shutting down operations for less than what they did. Now, Margaret's name is not on a plaque or a newsletter. It's on a docket. And Clearwater Pines finally remembers that peace isn't something you're given. It's something you protect, even with a clipboard, even in retirement, especially when they build a public restroom in your backyard without asking.